The revelation. The galactic concord had existed for nearly 3,000 years before humanity stumbled onto the interstellar scene. 17 advanced civilizations, each with centuries or millennia of spacefaring experience, had carved up the known galaxy into spheres of influence. Some, like the crystalline breathtaking, had mastered quantum manipulation, while Earth's first mammals were still scurrying beneath dinosaur feet. Others, like the hive-minded Solari, had colonized hundreds of worlds while humans were still fashioning tools from stone. Humanity's late arrival to this cosmic playground was met with a mixture of amusement and dismissal. The bipedal mammals from Sol-II had accomplished much in their brief existence, but they were children playing at the table of elders. When Earth joined the Concord in 2189, they were granted observer status and a handful of colony worlds, mere crumbs from the galactic feast. That changed in 2241, when humanity announced Project Prometheus. Captain Maya Chen stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, gazing at the massive structure taking shape in Earth orbit. Half finished, it already dwarfed any vessel humanity had constructed before. Its sleek, elongated form lacked the typical bristling weapon ports and armor plating of military vessels, yet its sheer scale had sent ripples of concern throughout the Concord. "Captain Chen," a voice called from behind her. "The delegation from the Verdekra has arrived. They're demanding another inspection." Maya turned to face her executive officer, Commander James Okonkwo. His expression was a mixture of exasperation and amusement. "Third inspection this month," she replied. "The Solari were here yesterday, and the Trigellan ambassador the day before. You'd think we were building a doomsday device." "Aren't we?" James asked, his voice dropping to a whisper despite the secure location. Maya smiled. "Depends on your definition of doom." The Verdekra delegation, led by High Overseer Kilith, moved through the station with the fluid grace characteristic of their crystalline biology. Their faceted bodies refracted the station's lighting into dazzling patterns across the walls. Though they attempted to maintain an air of aloof superiority, Maya could sense their unease. "We understand completion of your vessel is imminent," Kilith said, the translation matrix converting the harmonic vibrations of their crystal form into human speech. "The UES Prometheus will be ready for its maiden voyage in 2 weeks," Maya confirmed. "As I've explained during your previous visits, you're welcome to observe the launch." Kilith's crystal segments shifted in what Maya had learned was an expression of skepticism. "The Concord remains concerned about the purpose of such a massive warship. Earth has no territorial disputes requiring military intervention." "I never said it was a warship," Maya replied. "A vessel of that size, constructed in secrecy. Hardly secret if you're standing here discussing it," James interjected with a smile. Kilith's crystals flushed a deep blue. "Annoyance. The Concord has monitored your communications. We know your military refers to it as humanity's secret weapon." Maya inclined her head. "And so it is, but perhaps not the kind of weapon you imagine." As the delegation departed, unsatisfied but unable to demand more information, James turned to Maya. "They're getting nervous. The Solari have moved a battle group to the edge of Sol system. The Trigellan are threatening economic sanctions." "Let them," Maya said. "In 2 weeks, they'll understand." The crew of the Prometheus numbered 500, an eclectic mix of Earth's finest minds, drawn from every field except traditional military strategy. Maya had personally selected each one based not on combat experience, but on their capacity for empathy, creativity, and lateral thinking, traits that humans possessed in abundance compared to most Concord species. Dr. Eliza Ward, the ship's chief science officer, joined Maya in the cavernous central chamber that occupied nearly a quarter of the vessel's internal volume. Unlike the bridge or engine room of a traditional ship, this space defied easy categorization. "Final calibrations are complete," Eliza said, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "The neural network is processing at 99.97% efficiency. Quantum entanglement chambers are stable. Maya nodded, running her hand along one of the curved walls. The surface responded to her touch, rippling with patterns of light. And the rest of the ship. Life support, propulsion, shields, all systems nominal. Though I still think the shields are overkill. They're necessary, Maya replied. Not everyone will understand what we're doing here. Not at first. Eliza's expression grew serious. The Concorde has existed for thousands of years, Captain. They've settled into comfortable patterns. What we're about to do will disrupt everything they know. That's the idea, Maya said with a smile. Over the following days, final preparations were made. The crew ran simulations, calibrated systems, and prepared for the most ambitious mission in human history. Meanwhile, the diplomatic situation deteriorated. 6 Concorde species had now positioned military vessels near Earth, citing security concerns. Trade with human colonies had slowed to a trickle as sanctions took effect. The night before launch, Director Elijah Hamilton of the United Earth Space Agency contacted Maya via secure channel. The president is under immense pressure to cancel the launch, he said, his aged face lined with concern. The Solari ambassador threatened to revoke our Concorde membership. We expected resistance, Maya replied. But once they see what Prometheus can do. That's just it, Hamilton interrupted. They're afraid of what it can do. The Verdekra are convinced we've discovered some new weapon technology. The Trigellan believe we're planning to disrupt trade routes. Maya leaned forward. And what do you believe, Director? Hamilton's expression softened. I believe in humanity's capacity to surprise, even an old cynic like me. The launch proceeded as scheduled. As the massive vessel detached from Earth's orbital shipyard, representatives from all 17 Concorde species watched with trepidation. The Prometheus moved with unexpected grace for its size, its engines emitting a distinctive blue glow that human engineers had nicknamed Heartfire. Maya stood on the bridge, watching as Earth receded behind them. Set course for the Argolis cluster, she ordered. Commander Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. The Argolis cluster. That's the heart of the Solari-Trigellan conflict zone. Precisely, Maya said. If we're going to prove what the Prometheus can do, we might as well start with the worst conflict in the galaxy. The Argolis cluster had been a battlefield for over 70 years. The resource-rich region was claimed by both the Solari and the Trigellan, and countless lives had been lost in the struggle for control. A dozen Concorde peace missions had failed to resolve the dispute. As the Prometheus approached the edge of the conflict zone, long-range sensors detected multiple battle groups converging on their position. We're being hailed, Communications Officer Priya Sharma reported. Both Solari and Trigellan commanders are demanding we identify our purpose. Open a channel to both fleets, Maya ordered. She straightened her uniform and faced the view screen. This is Captain Maya Chen of the UES of Prometheus. We come on behalf of Earth and humanity to offer our assistance in resolving the Argolis dispute. The Solari commander, a towering insectoid whose compound eyes glittered with suspicion, clicked mandibles in what the translation matrix identified as derision. Your vessel has been identified as a weapon, the Solari stated. Your presence in this conflict zone is unwelcome and provocative. The Trigellan commander, a reptilian humanoid with iridescent scales, nodded in rare agreement with his enemy. The human vessel will withdraw immediately or face consequences. Maya smiled. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The Prometheus is indeed humanity's newest creation, but its purpose is not what you believe. With your permission, I invite representatives from both your fleets to come aboard and see for themselves. There was a long pause as the alien commanders conferred with their respective governments. Finally, both agreed to send small delegations, each convinced they would uncover Earth's military secrets and gain an advantage over their rival. Prepare the convergence chamber, Maya ordered as the transmission ended. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity's secret weapon really is. The alien delegations arrived separately, each escorted by security teams composed of their own species and human officers. The Xolari representatives skittered nervously, their compound eyes constantly moving, analyzing every detail of the ship's interior. The Triglavian moved with cold precision, scales shifting color subtly as they processed information. Neither found what they expected. This vessel contains no significant armaments, the Triglavian military attaché reported after thorough scanning. Defensive capabilities only. "Where are your weapons?" demanded the Xolari diplomat. "A ship of this size must have a purpose." "It does," Maya confirmed, leading them toward the massive central chamber. "Just not the purpose you imagine." The doors to the convergence chamber slid open, revealing a space unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The vast circular room contained no obvious technology, no control panels or visible equipment. The walls, floor, and ceiling seemed to be made of a material that shifted and flowed like liquid while remaining solid underfoot. At the center of the chamber was a simple raised platform. "What is this?" the Xolari diplomat demanded. "This," Maya said with pride, "is humanity's secret weapon." At her gesture, Dr. Ward activated the chamber. The walls began to glow, patterns of light dancing across the surfaces. The air itself seemed to come alive with barely perceptible vibrations. "For thousands of years," Maya explained as the chamber powered up, "the species of the Concord have sought to resolve conflicts through traditional means: military might, economic pressure, political maneuvering. And for thousands of years, these approaches have led to the same cycles of war and temporary peace." The platform at the center of the room began to glow, and above it appeared a three-dimensional representation of the Argolis cluster. "Humans may be newcomers to the galactic stage," Maya continued, "but we bring with us something unique, a different perspective. The Prometheus isn't a warship, it's something far more powerful." The chamber hummed with energy as Dr. Ward entered the final activation sequence. The alien delegates watched in confusion and growing concern as the walls pulsed with increasing intensity. "What you are about to experience," Maya said, "is humanity's true secret weapon. We call it the convergence." The chamber erupted in a blaze of light, and the alien delegates felt their minds expanding beyond the confines of their bodies, beyond the limitations of their species' understanding, into something vast and transformative. Humanity's secret weapon had been deployed. The resolution. The convergence lasted exactly 17 minutes by standard Earth time. To those experiencing it, it felt simultaneously like an instant and an eternity. When the light faded, and the alien delegates found themselves once again confined to their physical forms, they stood in stunned silence. The Xolari diplomat's compound eyes had darkened to a deep amber, a sign of profound emotional impact that Maya had never observed in the species before. The Triglavian representative's scales had shifted to a muted blue that the cultural database identified as the coloration of deep spiritual contemplation. What have you done to us?" the Xolari diplomat finally asked, mandibles trembling. "We've done nothing to you," Dr. Ward explained gently. "The convergence doesn't alter minds or implant thoughts. It simply allows for true understanding." Commander Okonkwo stepped forward. "For centuries, humans fought among ourselves. Nations, ideologies, religions, we found endless reasons for conflict. What changed wasn't our capacity for violence, but our capacity for empathy. The convergence technology," Maya continued, "is based on principles discovered during our early experiments with consciousness transfer. We learned that consciousness isn't confined to neural pathways. It exists in a quantum state that can be temporarily shared." The Triglavian military attaché blinked slowly, processing. I felt the hunger of Xolari hatchlings, the desperation of drone workers in the mineral processing facilities. "And I," the Xolari diplomat said in wonder, "understood the sacred connection between Triglavian and their ancestral hunting grounds in the Argolis moons." This was exactly what Maya had hoped for. The convergence didn't force agreement or erase differences. It simply allowed each participant to truly experience the perspective of others, creating a foundation for genuine understanding. The disputed territories in the Argolis cluster, Maya suggested carefully, might they be utilized in ways that honor both Trigelian spiritual needs and Solari resource requirements? The alien delegates looked at each other, not with the hostility of enemies, but with the dawning recognition of shared challenge. Perhaps, the Trigelian said slowly, certain seasons could be reserved for our spiritual pilgrimages, while others, our mining activities, could be scheduled around these sacred times. The Solari diplomat finished, compound eyes brightening. And perhaps we could develop less invasive extraction methods for the most sacred sites. Maya exchanged a satisfied glance with her officers. This was only the beginning, but already the possibilities of resolution were emerging where none had existed before. The delegates requested permission to bring more representatives aboard, including their fleet commanders. Over the next 3 days, the Prometheus hosted multiple convergence sessions. Military officers who had spent decades trying to kill each other found themselves working together on territorial compromises. Scientists from both species began discussing collaborative research into more efficient, less environmentally destructive mining techniques. Word spread quickly through the Concorde. The massive human vessel, feared as a superweapon, was instead deploying something far more revolutionary, a technology that could end conflicts not through destruction but through understanding. "We're receiving requests from 7 other species," Pryor reported one morning as Maya entered the bridge. "The Verdacra are particularly insistent. They want us to mediate their trade dispute with the Caladrian Alliance." The same Verdacra who were convinced we were building a doomsday device? Maya asked with a smile. "The very same," James confirmed. "Apparently, they're now our biggest supporters in the Concorde Council." As the Prometheus prepared to depart the Argolis cluster, leaving behind the framework for the first lasting peace agreement in 70 years, Maya received a transmission from Director Hamilton. "Congratulations, Captain," he said, his weathered face relaxed into a genuine smile. "The President has been flooded with diplomatic communications from across the Concorde. You've made quite an impression." "The entire crew deserves the credit," Maya replied. "And the thousands of scientists and engineers who developed the convergence technology." Nevertheless, Hamilton continued, "You should know that the Concorde Council has scheduled an emergency session. Several members are proposing that human convergence technology be made available throughout Concorde space." Maya leaned back in her chair, and Earth's position. "We're willing to share," Hamilton said, "but with conditions. Convergence facilities must be used only for conflict resolution, never for interrogation or coercion. And Earth maintains oversight of all installations." "They'll balk at those terms initially," Maya observed. "Perhaps," Hamilton acknowledged. "But they're already talking about revising humanity's status in the Concorde. There's even discussion of a permanent seat on the High Council, something no species has achieved in less than a century of membership." After the transmission ended, Maya made her way to the observation deck. Stars streamed past as the Prometheus traveled at FTL speeds toward their next destination. She found James there, gazing out at the cosmos. "Do you think we've changed anything permanently?" he asked as she joined him. "Or will they return to old patterns once the novelty wears off?" Maya considered this. The convergence doesn't create artificial harmony. It simply breaks down the barriers to understanding that make conflict seem inevitable. What species do with that understanding is still their choice. But it gives them a choice they didn't have before, James noted. Exactly. And that's always been humanity's greatest strength. Not our technology or our military prowess, but our ability to imagine alternatives. To see possibilities where others see only the patterns of the past. 5 years after the launch of the Prometheus, humanity's position in the galaxy had transformed. 3 additional convergence vessels had been constructed, each serving a different quadrant of Concorde space. Earth now held not only a seat on the High Council, but had become the de facto diplomatic hub of the galaxy. The convergence technology had evolved as well. What began as a single chamber on a massive ship had been refined into facilities that could be constructed on neutral worlds, allowing for ongoing diplomatic engagement without the need for Earth's direct involvement. Not every conflict had been resolved. Some species resisted the vulnerability required by the convergence process. Others agreed to participate, but struggled to translate understanding into actionable policy. Yet the galaxy was changing, one mind at a time. On the 10th anniversary of the Prometheus launch, Captain Maya Chen, now Admiral Chen, Earth's representative to the Concord High Council, stood once again on the observation deck of Luna Station. The view had changed dramatically. Ships from a dozen species now orbited Earth, not as invaders or wary observers, but as diplomatic envoys and cultural exchanges. Director Hamilton, now well into his 80s, joined her at the viewport. "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" he asked, gesturing at the bustling activity around their homeworld. Maya smiled. "I hoped. That's another human trait the Concord species find simultaneously baffling and fascinating. Our capacity for hope in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. The Verdecker ambassador told me yesterday that they've begun teaching human philosophy in their educational crystals," Hamilton said. "Apparently, our primitive emotional reasoning contains insights their purely logical approach had missed for millennia." Maya laughed. "We have much to learn from them as well. That's the beauty of it. We're all incomplete, all limited by our biology and history and perspective. Together, though." She didn't need to finish the thought. Below them, Earth rotated serenely, no longer an insignificant backwater at the edge of civilized space, but the heart of a new approach to galactic cooperation. Humanity had arrived on the interstellar stage, not with superior firepower or technological marvels, but with something far more powerful, a different way of seeing. And in a galaxy locked in ancient patterns, that was the most disruptive weapon of all. Deep within Neptune's shadow, the U.S. Nemesis drifted silently. Its hull, coated in light-absorbing metamaterials, made it virtually invisible against the backdrop of space. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, watching the distant stars with steady eyes. 20 years of preparation had led to this moment. "Contact," Lieutenant James Rodriguez reported from his sensor station, his voice cutting through the bridge's silence. Multiple signatures emerging from FTL at the edge of the solar system. Sarah turned from the window, her movements deliberate and calm. The bridge crew maintained their discipline, though the tension in the air was palpable. Humanity had known this day would come. They'd found too many dead civilizations, too many ruins with the same story written in their ashes. The Krix Empire destroys all they deem inferior. "How many?" Sarah asked, settling into her command chair. 47 capital ships, Captain. Matching known Krix configurations. Energy signatures suggest heavy weaponry. Rodriguez's fingers danced across his holographic display. "They're moving into standard conquest formation." Dr. Elena Santos, the ship's chief engineer, spoke up from her station. "Quantum core is stable, Captain. All systems nominal. The stealth systems are performing exactly as designed." The Nemesis represented humanity's greatest technological achievement. A warship built in secret, incorporating revolutionary advances in quantum physics and engineering. While Earth openly developed routine space capabilities, the best minds of a generation had worked in the shadows to create something unprecedented. "They're broadcasting," Communications Officer Kai Zhang announced. "System-wide transmission." Sarah nodded. "Let's hear their demands." A harsh, metallic voice filled the bridge. "Primitive species of Sol system. I am Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Krix Empire. Your civilization has been deemed insufficiently advanced for continued independent existence. Surrender your world for integration into the Empire, or face immediate extinction. You have one planetary rotation to comply." The bridge crew remained silent, watching their captain. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Tactical. What's their fleet positioning?" Lieutenant Maya Patel responded instantly. "Their capital ships are arranged in a hemispheric formation above Earth's orbital plane. Support vessels are maintaining standard Crix screening positions. Their formation is textbook, exactly as our analyzed ruins predicted. Of course it is, Sarah said. The Crix haven't faced real resistance in 10,000 years. They've forgotten how to adapt. She stood, addressing her crew. Everything we've prepared for starts now. Humanity chose not to reveal itself to the galaxy because we saw this pattern. Peaceful species wiped out, warlike species enslaved. We chose a different path. She walked to the tactical display, studying the Crix formation. We built the Nemesis not because we wanted war, but because we refused to accept extinction or submission as our only options. The Crix expect a primitive species with basic orbital defenses. Let's show them how dangerous underestimating humanity can be. Earth is responding to their demands, Kai reported. Exactly as planned, requesting clarification, asking for more time. The Crix are moving more ships into position, preparing for their standard orbital bombardment sequence. Sarah returned to her command chair. Bring all systems to full combat readiness. Maya, plot firing solutions for their command ships. Delina, prepare to bring the quantum core to full power. The moment they begin their bombardment, we show them why humanity built its first interstellar warship in secret. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, years of training evident in every movement. The Nemesis had never been tested in actual combat, but its crew had run countless simulations. They knew their ship, knew its capabilities, and most importantly, knew how to think creatively, something the Crix had forgotten long ago. Captain, Rodriguez called out. They're charging weapon systems. Earth's defensive satellites are responding exactly as programmed, looking primitive and ineffective. Perfect, Sarah said. Let them think they're facing simple targets. Belina, how's our power signature? Completely masked, Captain. As far as they're concerned, we don't exist. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. All hands. This is the captain. In a few moments, we're going to remind the galaxy why you should never assume you know everything about a species. Why you should never think that just because we're young, we're helpless. The Crix Empire is about to learn that humanity doesn't follow their rules. The first Crix shots fired toward Earth's satellites, and Sarah Chen gave the order that would change the course of human history. Bring us out of Neptune's shadow. Full power to quantum systems. Show them what humanity can do. The U.S. Nemesis emerged from hiding, its hull now gleaming with contained energy. The Crix Empire was about to discover that they weren't the hunters they thought they were. Sometimes, the most dangerous prey is the one that learns to hunt back. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching with cold satisfaction as the first volleys struck Earth's primitive satellites. The defense grid was pathetically simple, exactly what he'd expected from such a young species. His bridge crew worked with mechanical precision, coordinating the fleet's attack pattern with the efficiency born of 10,000 years of unopposed conquest. Then every alarm on his bridge screamed at once. Impossible energy signature detected. His sensor officer shouted, mandibles clicking in agitation. Unknown vessel emerging from the outer system. The tactical display showed something that shouldn't exist, a warship of clearly human origin, but radiating power levels that surpassed even Crix technology. Before Vexthor could process this impossibility, the vessel fired. Beams of concentrated quantum energy lanced out from the U.S. Nemesis, each shot striking with surgical precision. 3 Crix destroyers vanished in explosions of blue fire, their supposedly impenetrable shields bypassed completely. All ships, evasive action. Vexthor commanded, but the Nemesis was already moving, its speed defying the physics he understood. The human vessel seemed to dance between his fleet's formations, its hull absorbing direct hits without showing damage. Aboard the Nemesis, Captain Chen watched her crew perform exactly as she trained them. Maya, target their communication nodes. Kai, start broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's add some chaos to their ordered world. The Nemesis's quantum cannons fired again, targeting the specialized communication arrays that allowed the Kriegs fleet to coordinate. Simultaneously, Kai flooded their frequencies with a cacophony of signals, disrupting their ability to reorganize. "They're breaking formation," Rodriguez reported, excitement barely contained in his voice. "Their screening ships are trying to regroup, but they can't coordinate effectively." Alina's voice came from engineering, tight with concentration. "Quantum core holding stable at 95%. Their weapons can't penetrate our adaptive shielding. Every hit just gives us more data to work with." The Kriegs fleet's elegant formation had dissolved into chaos. Their ships, used to fighting in perfect synchronization, now fired wildly at the Nemesis, but the human vessel's quantum-powered engines allowed it to move in ways that defied conventional space combat doctrine. "Message from Supreme Commander Vexthor," Kai announced, a hint of satisfaction in his tone. "He's demanding to know what we are." Sarah stood from her command chair, her voice clear and strong. "Put me on. Ship to ship. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the U.S. Nemesis. You came to our system expecting to find primitive weapons and simple defenses. You thought humanity would be easy prey, like so many others. That was your first mistake." She paused as the Nemesis effortlessly evaded another barrage of Kriegs fire. "Your second mistake was assuming that just because we're young, we're predictable. Humanity has spent generations preparing for this moment, studying your tactics, learning your weaknesses. We built the Nemesis in secret not because we feared you, but because we wanted you to underestimate us." The Nemesis pivoted impossibly, its quantum drives allowing maneuvers that made traditional space combat tactics obsolete. More Kriegs vessels fell to its precisely targeted shots, their ancient shields useless against weapons they'd never encountered. Vexthor's response came filled with rage and disbelief. "This is impossible. You are nothing, a primitive species that barely reached its own moon." "That's what we wanted you to think," Sarah replied calmly. "While you watched our civilian space program, we built something new, something you've never seen before. Because humanity doesn't just adapt, we innovate, we create, and most importantly, we learn from history. Your empire has spent millennia crushing younger civilizations, but you never considered that one of them might be waiting for you." The Nemesis sensors detected power surges throughout the Kriegs fleet. "They're preparing their main weapons," Rodriguez warned. "All ships charging simultaneously." Sarah smiled. "Exactly what we expected. Elena, initiate quantum resonance sequence. Maya, target their power distribution nodes. Let's show them why copying the same tactics for thousands of years is a bad idea." As the Kriegs fleet unleashed its full firepower, the Nemesis's hull began to glow with contained energy. The quantum core channeled the incoming fire, absorbing and redistributing it through the ship's systems. When the Kriegs weapons finally ceased, expecting to see the human vessel destroyed, the Nemesis instead pulsed with borrowed power. "Return to sender," Sarah ordered quietly. The energy the Nemesis had absorbed erupted outward in a carefully controlled wave, amplified and focused by its quantum systems. The blast caught the Kriegs ships at their weakest moment, when their weapons were recharging. Shields failed across their fleet as their own power was turned against them. As Vexthor watched his perfectly ordered fleet fall into disarray, Sarah's voice came through one final time. "Consider this a lesson, Supreme Commander. Humanity isn't interested in joining your empire. We're not interested in surrendering or being eliminated. What we are interested in is showing the galaxy that the age of the Kriegs Empire's unopposed conquest is over. The question is, how many more ships are you willing to lose before you accept that fact?" The battle wasn't over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The Kriegs Empire had come expecting to find prey, only to discover they'd stumbled into the carefully laid trap of a predator they'd never seen coming, and humanity was just getting started. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Vexthor raged at his tactical officers. The initial battle had cost him 12 ships, more losses than the Empire had suffered in the last century combined. But worse than the losses was the humiliation. A young species, barely out of their gravity well, had bloodied the nose of the galaxy's greatest empire. The reinforcement fleet has arrived. His second-in-command reported. 300 vessels, including 5 Worldbreaker-class dreadnoughts. Deploy them in the Eternal Formation, Vexthor commanded. We will crush this impudent species with overwhelming force. On the Nemesis, Captain Chen watched the massive Krix reinforcement fleet emerge from FTL. The new ships were larger, more heavily armed, their hulls decorated with the markings of elite Krix battle groups. They're not taking us lightly anymore, Maya observed from tactical. Good, Sarah replied, because now we show them what happens when humanity really starts thinking creatively. Kai, initiate Operation Mockingbird. Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum relays activated. Suddenly, the Krix fleet's sensors detected multiple Nemesis-class vessels appearing at different points in space. Each signature was identical to the original, each moving with the same impossible grace. Quantum ghost projections online, Elena reported from engineering. The relays are performing perfectly. As far as their sensors can tell, they're facing 50 ships instead of 1. Vexthor's fleet scattered its formation, trying to engage multiple threats that seemed to appear and disappear at will. The real Nemesis moved among its phantoms, striking with precision before vanishing again. Their targeting algorithms are adapting, Rodriguez warned. They're learning to distinguish real weapons fire from our projections. Sarah nodded, just as we expected. Elena, implement Phase 2. The quantum core of the Nemesis pulsed with new energy. The ghost projections suddenly became solid enough to deflect weapons fire, each one acting as a mirror for the Nemesis's actual weapons. The Krix fleet found itself under attack from multiple angles, unable to determine which threats were real and which were reflections. They're trying to establish a new command and control network, Kai reported, converting to tighter beam communications to avoid our interference. Perfect, Sarah smiled. Maya, you know what to do. Lieutenant Patel's fingers danced across her console. The Nemesis's quantum weapons targeted specific points in space where the Krix's new communication beams intersected. The energy disrupted their attempts to coordinate, creating zones of communication dead space throughout their formation. Message from their flagship, Kai announced. Supreme Commander Vexthor is demanding we face them in honorable combat instead of using tricks. Respond with protocol humanity, Sarah ordered. Across all frequencies, the Krix fleet received not words but music. The 1812 overture played at full volume, its triumphant notes timed perfectly with the Nemesis attacks. It was psychological warfare of a type the Krix had never encountered, their rigid military doctrine unprepared for an enemy that treated battle as a form of artistic expression. Their Worldbreaker dreadnoughts are moving into position, Rodriguez reported. Energy readings suggest they're preparing their main guns. Time to show them why studying black hole physics was worth the effort, Sarah said. Elena, power up the gravity lance. The Nemesis's most secret weapon came online, a device that could briefly manipulate localized gravity fields. As the massive Krix dreadnoughts fired their planet-killing weapons, the Nemesis created microgravity wells that curved their shots back toward their own fleet. The sight of their most powerful weapons being turned against them broke something in the Krix formation. Ships began breaking ranks, their crews' legendary discipline cracking in the face of an enemy that seemed to defy the laws of physics themselves. They're pulling their dreadnoughts back, Maya reported with satisfaction. Smaller ships are moving to screen their retreat. Sarah stood at her command station, watching the tactical display. They still don't understand. They think this is about ships and weapons, but humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our creativity, our ability to think differently. She turned to her crew. Every time they adapt, we change the rules. Every time they learn to counter one strategy, we create 3 more. This isn't just a battle of ships anymore. It's a battle of ideas, and humanity has had millennia of practice at coming up with new ones. The Nemesis continued its dance through space, its quantum ghosts weaving patterns of confusion and destruction through the Crick's fleet. Each attack was different, each strategy unique, forcing the alien empire to face something they had never encountered in their thousands of years of conquest, an enemy that refused to fight according to their rules. As another Crick ship exploded under the Nemesis's quantum fire, Sarah's voice carried across the battlefield. "Remember this day, Supreme Commander. Remember what happened when you thought you could predict how humanity would fight. Because we're just getting started, and we have so many more surprises to show you." The battle continued, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The Crick's empire was learning a harsh lesson about the danger of underestimating a species that had spent its entire history learning to adapt, innovate, and overcome. And humanity was teaching that lesson with a creativity that would reshape the galaxy forever. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood aboard the Eternal Dominion, watching his fleet regroup for what he promised would be the final assault. At the heart of his formation waited the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Celestial Hammer, a vessel so powerful it had never needed to fire its main gun twice. "The human vessel has expended significant energy," his tactical officer reported. "Their quantum core emissions show signs of strain." "Then it's time," Vexthor declared. "Bring the Celestial Hammer to the front. Let them witness true power." Aboard the Nemesis, the bridge crew watched as the massive vessel emerged from behind the Crick's battle line. The Celestial Hammer dwarfed everything around it, its hull gleaming with energy shields that had withstood the death throes of stars. "That's one big ugly ship," Rodriguez commented, his sensors struggling to process its readings. "Energy output is off the charts. Their shield technology is like nothing we've seen before." Sarah Chen studied the tactical display, her expression thoughtful. "Elena, what's the status of our quantum core?" "Functioning at 60% capacity, Captain. We've burned through more power than expected countering their fleet." Sarah nodded. "Just as planned. Kai, open a channel to Earth Command." Admiral Zhang's hologram appeared on the bridge. "Captain Chen, I assume you're seeing what we're seeing." "Yes, sir. Request permission to initiate Protocol Omega." There was a pause before Zhang responded. "The calculations are untested, Captain. You understand the risks." "With respect, Admiral. Everything we've done today was untested until we did it." Sarah's voice carried absolute conviction. "My crew and I know what we're asking." Zhang nodded gravely. "Permission granted. Give them hell, Captain." The Celestial Hammer's main gun began to charge, its power gathering visible even to the naked eye. The Crick's fleet spread out, giving their ultimate weapon a clear line of fire at the Nemesis. "All hands," Sarah's voice rang through the ship. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before. But that's nothing new for us, is it? Humanity has spent its entire history doing the impossible. Today, we add one more impossibility to that list." She turned to her bridge crew. "Elena, divert all power to the quantum core. Maya, plot an intercept course directly at their main gun. Kai, broadcast our music library on all frequencies. Let's give them a symphony they'll never forget." The Nemesis surged forward as Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries thundered across space. The Crick's commanders watched in disbelief as the human vessel charged straight toward their most powerful weapon. "They've gone mad," Vexthor whispered. Then louder, "Fire the Celestial Hammer. Obliterate them." The massive weapon discharged, releasing enough energy to crack a planet. But instead of evading, the Nemesis flew directly into the beam. Its quantum core pulsed with impossible brightness as Elena's voice rang out from engineering. Quantum resonance achieving critical harmony. The Nemesis's hull began to glow with absorbed energy, its quantum systems doing something that violated every known law of physics. The ship wasn't just surviving the Celestial Hammer's attack, it was consuming it. "Now, Maya," Sarah commanded, "show them what happens when humanity decides to break reality." The Nemesis released the absorbed energy, but not as a weapon. Instead, the quantum core created a localized space-time distortion, a bubble of altered physics that encompassed both ships. Inside this bubble, the celestial hammer's supposedly unbreakable shields operated under new rules, rules written by human physicists who had spent decades thinking about how to accomplish the impossible. The mighty alien vessel's shields flickered and failed, their fundamental principles disrupted by laws of physics they were never designed to handle. The Nemesis's quantum weapons struck true, finding weaknesses that shouldn't have existed. Impossible. Vex Thor's scream carried across all frequencies. Our shields are perfect. They cannot fail. That's your problem. Sarah responded calmly as the Nemesis continued its assault. You think in terms of what cannot be done. Humanity thinks in terms of what could be possible. Your shields are perfect according to your understanding of physics. We just changed that understanding. The celestial hammer, pride of the Krix Empire, began to break apart under the Nemesis's onslaught. Its hull, never designed to withstand fire without its shields, crumpled under precisely targeted quantum beams. Your empire has spent thousands of years perfecting your technology, Sarah continued, her voice reaching every ship in the Krix fleet. But you stopped imagining new possibilities. You stopped asking, what if? That's something humanity never stopped doing. We looked at your perfect shields and asked ourselves, what if we could change the rules they operate under? The celestial hammer exploded in a cascade of quantum fire, its destruction visible across the solar system. The Krix fleet, witnessing their invincible flagship reduced to debris, began to retreat in disarray. Remember this moment, Sarah broadcast one final time. Remember what happened when you thought you knew the limits of possibility. Humanity doesn't accept limits. We break them. And we're just getting started. As the Krix fleet fled in panic, the Nemesis hung in space, its quantum core pulsing with the power of possibilities yet unexplored. The battle wasn't over, but its message was clear. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy not with a whisper, but with the sound of shattering impossibilities. 1 month after the Battle of Sol, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Mars, facing representatives from 30 different species. The defeat of the Krix Empire had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, transforming humanity from an unknown species to a force that could no longer be ignored. The Krix Empire's reign of terror is over, the Centaurian ambassador announced, his crystalline form shimmering in the artificial light. Their fleet retreats from 100 worlds, their confidence shattered by a species they thought too young to matter. Sarah watched the assembled aliens, remembering the battle that had changed everything. The U.S. Nemesis floated in orbit above them, its quantum core still humming with possibilities. But the ship was no longer alone. Across Earth's shipyards, new vessels were under construction, each incorporating lessons learned from that first crucial battle. We've reviewed the battle data. The Arcturian science minister spoke, her holographic form flickering with excitement. Your quantum manipulation techniques, they should have been impossible. You've rewritten our understanding of physics. Humanity has a habit of doing that. Sarah responded with a small smile. We've spent our history looking at things people call impossible and asking why not. The assembly chamber filled with overlapping voices as different species debated the implications. Some spoke of fear, others of opportunity. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had been the catalyst. The Krix Empire has ruled through fear for 10,000 years, the Regelian war chief growled. They destroyed my people's first attempt at spaceflight, forced us to rebuild in secret. How did you know they were coming? How did you prepare so perfectly? Sarah activated a hologram showing the ruins humanity had studied, dead worlds and shattered civilizations that had told the same story. We learned from history. Every ruins we found told us about the Krix, about their tactics, their technology, their pride. Instead of rushing to the stars, we took our time. We built in secret, we innovated, we prepared. And in doing so, the Centaurian ambassador added, you've given hope to species who had forgotten what hope felt like. Reports streamed in from across the galaxy. The Krix Empire, its aura of invincibility shattered, faced rebellions on 100 worlds. Species they had subjugated for millennia looked at humanity's victory and found the courage to fight back. "We didn't just defeat their ships," Sarah explained to the assembly. "We defeated their idea that progress and innovation could be controlled, that younger species should know their place, that the galaxy's future was written in stone." Elena, who had joined Sarah at the assembly, pulled up new schematics. "We're already sharing our quantum drive technology with allied species. The Nemesis was just the beginning. Imagine what we can achieve together, combining human creativity with the knowledge of 1,000 worlds." The assembly erupted in excitement as Elena's designs appeared. Ships that could reshape space itself, defenses that adapted to any threat, power sources that drew energy from the quantum fabric of reality itself. "But there's something you should understand," Sarah continued, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Humanity doesn't want to replace the Krix Empire. We don't want to rule or dominate. What we want is to explore, to learn, to grow, and to ensure that no species ever again has to fear extinction just because they're young or different." The Arcturian minister's hologram pulsed with approval. "You've given us something we had forgotten existed: change." The galaxy had become static, locked in patterns thousands of years old. "In one battle, you showed us that the future isn't set." Above them, the Nemesis caught the light of Earth's sun, its hull still bearing scars from the battle that had changed everything. But those scars told a story about a species that refused to accept limitations, that looked at the impossible and saw opportunity. "The Krix Empire called us primitive because we were young," Sarah concluded. "They never understood that youth means possibility. Every human child knows that the most important question isn't what is, but what could be." And now that question echoes across the galaxy. As the assembly concluded, new alliances were formed, new possibilities discussed. The galaxy was awakening from its long slumber, sparked by a species that had dared to dream differently. The U.S. Nemesis had won more than a battle. It had won a future where imagination and innovation could flourish again. And somewhere in deep space, the remnants of the Krix fleet carried a message to the far corners of the galaxy. "Beware the species that looks at your perfect weapons, and perfect ships and perfect tactics, and asks, with a smile, 'What if we tried something new?'" The age of stagnation was over. The age of possibility had begun, and humanity was just getting started.